So, Lou Samuelson is a basketball player who currently plays for she plays for the Phantom. She is currently a player for the Phantom, but no WNBA team, as she will be an unrestricted free agent in about 10 days. So in about 10 days, she will be able to decide where she wants to play, who she wants to play for, and so on. And I think it is going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be very interesting to see where she goes because, look, Katie Lou was not a need for Indiana. The fact that Indiana are basically saying, we'll get rid of you to replace you at a minimum contract means that they really didn't want her. But also the fact is that she played the same position as Hull, Bonner, and Sophie Cunningham and was just worse than them all. She was just worse than them all. But I still don't think she's a bad option on the minimum. So while she's not her contract was awful. Her contract was absolutely awful. You've now got a situation where she's actually going to be sought after. So, according to Darren Wolfson, Katie Lou Samuelson, the Minnesota Lynx have expressed interest in Katie Lou, and there's also reports that nearly half the teams in the league have shown interest as well. So, how that they can get her on the cheap? Yeah, they can literally get her on a minimum contract. Like, nobody wants to take Katie Lou Samuelson on $180,000 a year, but if you can get her as an end-of-the-bench minimum player, it's not bad. People still believe Katie Lou Samuelson can shoot. Like, there are still people, just like Lynn Dunn, that will take a punt on Katie Lou Samuelson because she was good at UConn a decade ago. But wish Katie Lou well in landing on her team. Love this. It's irrelevant. Put her back with Fee. Like, the thing with Katie Lou is that, literally, she's never shot well. I hear people all the time, like Gino Oriema said it. Obviously, a picture with her with the Sparks. I think Sparks might be interesting to go back there. I think if you are... I'm trying to think of what teams other than the Lynx could really go for her. Like, the Lynx definitely could. I think even the Liberty, the Liberty don't have that much of a bench. They really don't. Like, they don't have a real backup power forward. Like, Kennedy Burke and stuff. Like, she can play the 3-4 off the bench for the Liberty and kind of, especially with John Quell there at the 5, Stewie on the floor, Phoebich. Like, they've got enough size that I think she'd be interesting there on the Liberty. And it's funny because a lot of the teams should be interested on the top teams. But I think it's worth taking a punt on her if, and I mean if, she regains her form that she showed a freaking decade ago. Like, that's the thing, is like, the only reason Katie Lou Samuelson is in the league, the only reason she's still in the league is because she was good at UConn. Like, that's a fact. She would not be, like, we've got people like, in fairness, Odyssey Sims signed a big contract, but last year no one signed Odyssey Sims. The only reason Katie Lou's still in the league is because she was good at UConn. And you've got UConn Tax and Gino Oriema keeping saying, oh, teams keep signing her because they know she's the key piece for a championship. She is a non-defending low 30% three-point shooter for her career. But for the minimum, do you take the risk that you can be the coach that can get the best out of Katie Lou? Because there's been no coach so far that's done that, really. Like, she was decent at Seattle, I guess, and like, she's the best warm-up shooter in history. Like, I've heard so many stories with people at Fever games. They're like, Katie Lou just made 20 3-pointers in a row in the warm-up, and then she gets into the game and airballs. Like, there's never been, in fairness to her, there's never been a player like I've seen like that. So it's clearly a confidence issue, not an ability issue. So maybe all the coaches are like, we can figure this out. We can get Katie Lou back to her best. And if you are the coach that does that, dear Lord, you're going to have some player in your hands. And I think if any coach is going to do it, it'll be Shah Reef. I think putting her in a no-pressure environment where your starting 5 is set in stone. If you're the Lynx, your starting 5 is set in stone. You are one of probably the 2 or 3 favorites. One of the 3 favorites is signing Emma Mason. So, Emma Mason coming into the starting 5 for Carlton. But, like, you're not as good as Carlton. You're not as good as Kayla McBride. You're not as good as Courtney Williams. Natisha Heidemann and Grace Berger are there sharing the backup point guards duty and backup 2. Your job is to play 9 minutes a game and shoot 3 threes in those 9 minutes. And if you make them, cool. If you miss them, cool. If you make them, you're going to be getting more minutes. If you miss them, you're going to be cut from the rotation. Like that is Katie Lou Samuelson's role right now with the freaking Lynx if she goes there. If she goes to the Liberty, her role is going to be something similar. I'm trying to think of teams that could do with her. The Seattle Storm are in a really bad spot salary cap wise after the Gabby Williams contract. They're in a really bad spot because they gave Alicia Clark a near max. They pulled a Katie Lou. They pulled a Lynn Dunn. So maybe she might have to go back to the Storm. But like she'll have played. There's a good chance that by the end of the summer, Katie Lou Samuelson, who was drafted in 2019 and not signed on a hardship anywhere, will have played for half of the franchise in the WNBA. Like, it's not a surprise, but I think if I was her, I would do whatever I could do to get to the Lynx. There is no better fit. You're gone back to play with Nafisa Collier. There's like a lot of UConn alum there. So you're gone back again. You've gone back to Fee. Dorky Uhas was Utah too. Say not Utah, Jesus, UConn too. Is anyone else UConn on that team? I don't know. I don't think Kayla McBride was UConn. But you've got some UConn players. You've got one of your former teammates. You got actually your former teammate who you were drafted ahead of in Nafisa Collier, who ended up being the best player in the world. And it'll help. And look, all Katie Lou has to do, because there's one thing she did show at Indiana, and she's showing it at Unrivaled as well, is that she is a smart player. She gets herself into good position. She moves well without the ball. She cuts very well. And she tries. Like, she's going to try to play defense. She's not a good defender, but she'll try. She will try. And she did have the worst whistle in the W last year. Either her or Leah Boston. But she's going to try. And with that, I would say still, if I was the Lynx, this would be who I'm pushing for. Because signing Katie Lou, as far as I'm aware, for the Lynx, it gives them enough salary cap to go after MMA Simon post Eurobasket. And that would be the big signing. But Katie Lou's going to be better than... She might be better than Diamond Miller off the bench. Like, I do think there's a role for her. I don't think she's going to be any brilliant, but I do think on one of these better teams, there's kind of a role. And the reason why there was no role for the Fever for her is because Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull are just better than her. They're just better than her. Like, Sophie Cunningham and Hull would start on a lot of teams in the WNBA. Both of them would. But outside of Beck Allen, the next two best small forward or like wings off the bench, or like off the ball, not scoring wings off the bench, both play for Indiana, who she played for. So you kind of have to get rid of her. But anyway, yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.